Looks like we're going. Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 6 of Live, Learn, Life, and I'm joined with someone that is ultimately one of my heroes, someone I grew up with. We met in 2009 at Sportsman's Warehouse. From there, we had a coaching relationship, and then actually beyond that, we've had more friendship and mentorship, and now we're in Northern Ireland, 14 years later. So those who don't know, this is Peter Harold. A lot of friends, a lot of family back home will know exactly who this is, exactly how much of a legend he is, and how much he means to so many people in our lives and circles back in Cape Town and Pretoria. So welcome, Peter. Welcome to Live, Learn, Life.
Thank you, Dylan. It's such a pleasure to be here, and obviously the things that you've done over the last two or 3 months, starting this project and this process, has been amazing to witness, and it's a real privilege to be on here.
Thank you. I appreciate it massively.
Looking forward to having a chat with you.
14 years in the making.
There we go, you know.
So, Peter, how did we end up here? How are we in Northern Ireland?
Sure. A process of a lot of choices leading to a lot of consequences, leading to the fact that acquaintance that I have that is now the head coach of Argentina, having contacts in Ireland, that I worked with in Pretoria when I moved back from Cape Town, calling me up and saying, Peter, there's an opportunity to go do some work in Ireland. Would you like to take it? And through a couple of negotiations, I found myself on a plane, and I think it was the 17th of April. And yeah, Dylan, I've known you for 14 years. You live in England. And knowing that I was coming here, you said to me, it would be great to come and see you up there. And I said, let's do it. And we find ourselves here on a Wednesday afternoon.
A wonderful adventure, and sort of.
Definitely.
I think we both had a lot of ups, a lot of downs. I think we both have somehow culminated in here.
Yes.
And over the last few days, our conversations have been riveting, and a lot of, as you say, monologuing, but they've been very inspirational to me, and I'm sure a lot of conversations I have with others that feel the same way.
I'm glad.
And yeah, I've learned a lot in these last 2 days, and some things we spoke about, sort of things like adversity, sort of how to overcome a lot of aspects, and how sort of we just let life happen. And I was wondering if you could share any stories of your past, and sort of how you got into coaching, how you sort of end up here, and sort of what challenges you might have faced throughout that time.
So getting into coaching, obviously played cricket back home, which everyone does. Went to Pretoria Boys High School on a cricket scholarship. Back in the day when Cricket South Africa was trying to get guys from underprivileged backgrounds into the boys' schools and change the whole structure in the mid-90s around how cricket was seen and how it gives access to people. And yeah, I've always loved the game. I'm the first person in my family to play it, so sort of fell into it by accident, and then that's just how everyone is. Like everyone talks about that favorite teacher. I had some coaches that really sort of helped me along the way, inspired me, were my mentors. With the type of childhood I had, which I don't have to go into right now, it was very difficult with my dad and stuff. So having coaches that were my mentors, that sort of fulfilled that father figure role in my life, made a big difference. Some of them have passed away along the way. Guys like Dennis Lindsay, who was a South African legend, who played in the last cricket tour for South Africa before apartheid was introduced in the country. Before we were sort of banished from the sporting world, I spent the last 4 years. I was one of his proteges at Pretoria Boys. He was the cricket pro, and I coached under him, and I learned a hell of a lot. And he told a lot of stories. And then my first coach, a guy called Jeff Clark, who also worked at Northerns, I sort of followed his footsteps a little bit in some of the things that I've done from a coaching perspective. And he's unfortunately also passed away. But yeah, that sort of influence, I think, always led me to the coaching route. So that by the time I was at the University of Pretoria on a cricket scholarship, as you do, and trying to make it as a cricketer, needing to make some extra money, I thought coaching is a nice way to get some pocket money and stuff like that. And I went back to Pretoria Boys High, my alma mater, and started coaching. I'll never forget it. My first coaching job was the under 14 Fs and Gs, just as a student coach, and through that, I got to a process of understanding that I loved it. I loved coaching. I loved working with kids. I loved seeing a smile on their face. I felt a lot more satisfaction helping somebody else get better at something that I was trying to get as good as possible at than I was with myself. And as the years progressed and I started coaching at the higher levels at the school, sort of started doing individual coaching. And interestingly enough, I know you for 14 years. There's a couple of guys I've known for a lot longer than that. I've been at their weddings and their graduations and 21st and birthday parties over the years. So what I found is the relationship building that came with the coaching was very important to me. It fulfilled me in a way. Again, I think that I'd missed and I'd lacked from my own sort of family upbringing with my dad, and I felt that I could be that type of person to young guys. And South Africa being what it is, having positive role models is a massively important thing. And yeah, and then through the years, you'll probably ask me about that now. It sort of progressed from there.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about back to Cape Town, and I guess you moved down there looking for a new challenge. Spoke about in the last few days. But how did you go from being at a young age there, sort of not getting the chance that you wanted when you were up north? Then you decided, okay, cool, I'm shifting down. Like this is not where I need to be now.
Yeah.
And now you're sort of thinking, like, to a lot of people, okay, this is not my moment. I need to move. That's a pure example of adversity for people and making a decision in moments. How did you come to that decision to make that shift down south?
To put it in a nutshell, I felt that I was not given an opportunity I deserved in Pretoria. And being as young as I was, and I think I alluded to this with you in a very informal chat earlier on today, that when you're younger, you take everything personally. Everything's an emotional response, and they clearly don't think I'm good enough, and I'm better than they think I am. So you make rash decisions, as I call them, and without thinking too much about the consequences. So I felt like I didn't get the opportunity I deserved, and I decided that I wanted to live by the coast, and I've always wanted to. The travel bug had bitten me with the cricket tours and stuff like that, and Cape Town was always the place I wanted to be. And yeah, I put all my stuff in my car, drove down to Cape Town with very little prospects. Not a lot of people in Cape Town knew who I was. In Pretoria, going through the ranks and being a Northerns boy and playing SN 17 and things like that, that sort of gives you a bit of a reputation. But I never played professional cricket, so it was always difficult going to a new place and making a name for yourself. And what I realized very quickly is that I needed to let my work speak for itself. And without naming any names or mentioning any places, I had an interview at what was back then the top school in Cape Town in terms of cricket. And they'd been the top school for a fair few number of years. And through contacts, I'd organized or arranged a interview, and I walked into the principal and the head of cricket's office or head of sports office, and had a conversation with them. And in very short terms, they said to me, "Well, we don't need anybody. We're good." And I understood that, because when you're successful, you feel like you've done everything you need to do. And by a very weird set of circumstances, I then got involved at Rondebosch Boys High School. And I remember driving into the school and thinking, this is just like Boys High back home in Pretoria. And it might be because the previous headmaster was a Rondebosch old boy, and the head boy at that stage, his father had been a Pretoria Boys High old boy. So there was a lot of links. The headmaster of the prep school, Mr. Ryan, was my maths teacher at Boys High. So I felt like I had a lot of connections at that place. And yeah, I had to start from scratch. The school wasn't in a very good place from a cricket point of view, so it was a project. It wasn't just a job, and it led to some really wonderful experiences.
When you say things wasn't a job, it was a project, how did you make that shift in mindset? Because I think about that a lot of the time now, and things that I'm trying to do, it's all becoming more projects. And I remember my dad saying, a lot of people back home say, "Oh, it's just a job," and it don't actually have meaning to it. But how did you make that shift to go, okay, this is a project for me to take on?
It comes down to the personal goal that I have for myself, which again I don't need to go into right now. But when I was 25 years old, I set myself a 25-year goal, and I'm trying to live that 25-year goal every single day of my life. I'm 15 years into it. I've still got another 10 years to go. I'm only 40. I'm turning 41 next month. So basically 9 years, the clock's ticking. And I realized that if I was going to set such a long-term vision or project or goal for myself, that everything I then took on had to take on longer-term proportions, had to take on longer-term implications and consequences, because I was trying to do something that is so far in the future. You know, what's that? 365 days, 3,650 days. So it's 7,000 days over 20 years, plus another half of that. So it's basically 8,500 days that I'm living with, that I'm just trying to go through every single day. So I have a personal project. And to extrapolate that to everything else I was doing, I had to then realize that everything else I was doing was part of that major project, but there were smaller ones
Yeah.
than the one I was doing for myself, and I'm still doing for myself. So Rondebosch, we wanted to, being the alma mater of the guys like Gary Kirsten and John Cummins, who played for the Proteas, the likes of the rugby players, Gabani Bobo, and those types of guys, was a school steeped in history and tradition. I obviously had a connection with it from a boys' high Rondebosch perspective, and I saw it as the school that I haven't mentioned, being the number one school, and the sort of Rondebosch's rivals, Bishops, which I can mention, being at that stage slightly better than Rondebosch from a results perspective, was a challenge that needed to be taken on, and it was going to take years to get Rondebosch back to where it needed to be. And me having moved down and made the decision to make my home in Cape Town, realized that I was going to spend a fair portion of my life at this place. So then, instead of it just being a job, it was, okay, this is a project, my next project I'm tackling, and it's just not a cricket project, it's a life project too.
And in terms of projects, were there any sort of projects during that time? I'm just thinking about Cape Town specifically because at one point we ended up moving in with me and my family for a couple of months.
Yes, I did.
And that was, I remember that session distinctly. I don't know how you and I got in that conversation. And I remember saying to Mom, Peter's moving in with us. But how were there times where you're like, in that 5 years or so in Cape Town, you're like, okay, these small projects that I've tried to work on, that they haven't actually worked out, and how'd you handle those setbacks?
So as you go, Cape Town being a very sports mad city and province, and Western Province being the lifeblood of so many people from a rugby, cricket, hockey, sports perspective, I realized that I was going to do a lot of other work too, not just with the school, but I got involved with the Cobras and Western Province cricket to some extent. I eventually started working with Boland cricket as well as a video analyst. I went up into Africa to Uganda and Morocco to go and do some work with their national side. So ended up sort of doing quite a lot of other stuff as opposed to my work at Rondebosch as the cricket professional. And probably the thing, if you're going to call it projects, is the amount of people that I started working with on an individual basis, which I actually see as my actual work. Being able to someone calls you up and says, my son needs some individual coaching, but me knowing that I don't just see myself as a cricket coach, I see myself as a mentor, and cricket is the vehicle to help hopefully positively inspire and help somebody do some really positive things in their life. I then ended up taking on the added responsibility of mentoring quite a lot of young people, including yourself, obviously. So from a project point of view, all of those, again, became part of the bigger picture, the pieces of the puzzle I was trying to fit into my own life and where I saw my life going. So probably the most intensive ones were with the individual training, coaching that I had to do with a hell of a bunch of boys at Rondebosch as well. But interestingly enough, and I think I'm one of the few people that's done this, there was a stage where I was coaching, while I was the cricket pro at Rondebosch, coaching first team players from all 3 other boys' school first teams in Cape Town, because I never saw it as a exclusive job, that I was as Rondebosch's coach, and that was my job. My whole philosophy is I'm trying to help anyone I can, and see it as a bigger picture. And one of my most fondest memories was we played Wynberg, and the Wynberg captain at that stage, he scored 100 in the game, but Rondebosch won the game. So on 2 fronts, I won that day. My individual did well, and my team did well. So I walked away from there with a big smile on my face. And I suppose that's sort of what it comes down to is the ability to know that you're working with somebody, and when they start achieving stuff, see that satisfaction, that joy, that gratitude that comes from it, not just from yourself, but from them as well. And then you realize you're doing the things for the right reasons, in the right ways. And sometimes even the adversity, the bad stuff that happens, the fallouts that you have, the disappointments are part of the story. Like those they mean a lot more than the wins. The wins are just validation it's a reward for the work that you've put in. The losses and the failures are the motivations. They're the driving force that push you to become better and better and better. Because when you've won something, you can only win it again. But when you win it the first time, that's the most satisfying feeling. But when you keep on losing in that final, that semi-final, you just can't get over that hurdle. it motivates you, it pushes you to the next year. So then the project becomes a lot more long term because I haven't achieved it immediately. I've had disappointment along the way, and it makes me hunger for it more, which I think is what every sportsman in every sport needs. He needs disappointment and failure to motivate himself. And then when he achieves that dream or that goal, then he focuses on the next goal. And that, I think, is the essence of sportsmanship and endeavor.
Do you ever think that failures that leads to delayed gratification?
It's a weird thing with gratification because people tend to, the perspective on gratification is, I win the match, I win the trophy, I win the league, I achieve provincial or national qualification or representation, I play for the Proteas, I win a World Cup. In the Proteas case, that's a dream that's a little bit elusive, but that's what people think about it being delayed gratification. What I see it as is, am I better every day? When I go into my practice, not just cricket, obviously from a net perspective, but any practice, and I walk away an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, however long you want to train on that day, and I walk away and I think I'm better than I was when I started. That is the gratification that you should actually look for. As I said, the medals and the trophies, those are just rewards. The gratification has to be intrinsic. It has to be, come from inside, that I've worked on this specific shot that I've been struggling with for a while, or this hurdle that I've tried to overcome for a bit, or fitness goal that I try to reach. And I'm slowly but surely getting there. Because if your goals are reachable, they're too easy.
Yeah.
The goal always needs to be slightly beyond your horizon, because then it allows you to still be striving for something. I firmly believe people don't dream big enough. The delayed gratification comes from a good life. And you need to sit down one day at 80 years old, hopefully still alive and kicking, and you can sit next to the sport field and say, I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve. But until that age, until the last breath, you're still searching for something. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense to me. It makes sense. And I think that's something that we spoke about the last few days. Like, where I am at now at 23 to where I think I would like to be in 23 years' time. And we spoke about 25-year goal. Very, very different places. And I think it's like the dream of, let's say at the minute for me, is just to enjoy cricket, but also try to see how far I can go in coaching or playing. But also for me to know that if that doesn't happen, I'm still going to have steps in place to make sure I'm still enjoying the life that I think I want to lead. Yeah. And I think when last few months, like I say, I didn't plan on doing a podcast all of a sudden. I just started talking nonsense to someone one day, and all of a sudden, oh, here we go, podcast, we're on. And I'm finding now that these big dreams I have, there are small tasks that keep popping up out of nowhere, and that's giving me my gratification in this day and age now. Instead of me going, I must be at national level by the time I'm 25.
Time frames.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you find your time frames? Because you spoke about 25 years, and I sort of know what you're trying to achieve, but how did you sort of give yourself that sort of time frame?
It came down to what I thought when I looked at my life in the middle of my 20s, and I thought, I'm going to stop playing. I've stopped playing and I've taken coaching on full time. What do I want to get out of this? Where do I see myself in 5 years' time, 10 years' time frames? And I thought to myself, the goal I'm trying to reach is so big, and I'm starting from such a low base, having never played professional cricket and stuff like that, that it's going to be so difficult to achieve. I have to give myself enough time to achieve it. If I do it sooner, great. That's a bonus. But I knew, and that's weird how you sort of know these things back then, because you have this gut feeling that that's the time it's going to take me. And through all the levels that I've worked at, and it's strange because I've worked at basically every single level of cricket in South Africa, up and down, with the achievements and the disappointments, with the climbs up the ladder and the setbacks, that I'm still on track, and even if I don't achieve it, the pursuit of that is what's kept me going. Your previous question was about delayed gratification. If I don't achieve that goal, at least I dreamed big, and I can look back and if I do achieve it, fantastic, because that's what I work for. But every single day, that's what I'm pursuing. And within the other tasks and all the stuff that I do, coaching at a place like Hollywood as they spell it, but Hollywood as the Irish would say it, here in Ireland, back at Harlequins in Pretoria, where I've been for the last 3 years after I'd finished with the Titans, I'm doing all those things, but every day I just see two words. I see 25 years. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what gets me going. It's what's made me leave cricket for a while and go and pursue other things from a corporate world perspective. Becoming a barista in Cape Town so you can learn to serve people better, because those are skills that I wasn't picking up in the cricket environment, and I needed to have them to pull up what some would call a resume. But for me, I needed to have them to live the life that I wanted to live, to feel like I'm achieving the things I want to achieve from a people gratification point of view, from being as happy as I possibly can be, doing things I like, not worrying too much about the money, even though I need to, as everyone does, pay bills. Just feel like every day I'm living the life that I've created for myself. And being lucky enough most of this time of my life, since I made that decision at 25 years old, being able to do that is so gratifying in its own respect. It feels like I'm doing exactly what I want to do. The people pay me for it. I can't describe how much of a liberating feeling that is. The ability to travel, to see different parts of the world, to play the golf that I want to play in the places that I'm playing it at, to meet the people that I meet, Dylan. It's magic, and I would wish that on any single person to have the ability to do exactly what you want to do, and whether other people like it or not, whether other people approve or not, for you to wake up every day and be like, I'm happy with my life, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do, while I'm still pursuing this thing that might seem impossible, even to me at times, but to other people feels like this guy's just reaching for the stars, but we'll never get there. But me knowing that everything I'm doing, I'm going towards that. And at 50 years old, I can hopefully look back and say those 10,000 days were worth it. So yeah,
That's amazing. I think when we think about those 10,000 days, it's not like every day is not the same day. And I think particularly with people if you, let's take your story for example, how you said you went and were a barista to upskill something else. Like that's just an amazing thing of actually I'm not involved with the thing I want to do in coaching, but I've gone such a diverse place in being a barista, learning a new skill. Everyone thinks, oh, just making coffee, but it's not. It's actually what other skill have I learned from that. And I think that's something that I'm trying to learn in podcasting here. I'm learning how to communicate more. And I think that's what you learned with being a barista, that even though you may not look like you're doing something every day for your goal, you really are. And that for me is like the beauty in adversity care. I've had to move into this, but it's still actually relating to what my major goal is. I just have to go through a different path, but my mind's still always focused on what's the big goal that I'm aiming for.
Yeah,
I think that's an incredible story to share with people.
Thank you.
And like I say that back home. So I remember we're room buddies basically. I'd come and watch you play Tiger Woods golf, and I
remember that.
12 years later, we're playing golf together in Northern Ireland. I'm thinking, how have we managed that?
Dad's pancakes were the best.
Yeah, it's like even doing that, just like those key memories, like they stick with you throughout the big goal. And I think it's weird to think that we live together and that now I'm seeing you in this bigger light, and how cool that story is and how cool it is to follow someone's track. And it's sort of like how did you get to these stories? Like how did you learn to be where you are today?
I think it comes down to people. I've always liked. I was lucky that at the time that things opened up in South Africa, we had our first democratic elections in 1994. Springboks won the World Cup in 1995 when I was 13 years old and impressionable, and they're still my favorite team. And the amount of stuff that they've done to unify South Africans into one thing. We love winning. We South Africans, we love it. Rugby has always been seen as the sport of the dividers and the sport of the white people. To be PC about it, I'm sorry for anyone if I've offended anyone, but it's become the sport of the people in South Africa. There's a World Cup coming up in 3 weeks' time. I'm here in Ireland. We're playing them in a group game 3 weeks or 4 weeks from now, and that's all anyone talks about is how amazing the Springboks are. So to have the realization that your country's national rugby team influences people on the other side of the world, and you actually can have a conversation about that, is the epitome, I think, of what I do. So how I've done this and how I've thought about it is is I'm working with people. That's my job. I'm trying to service them, in a cricket sense, make them better at a skill that they really like, that they want to get better at, whether it's the 8-year-old child that has his first cricket bat and his eyes are big and he's glazed over and he sees the Proteas and he goes to a match with his dad and he's like, I want to do that. And I can give him the opportunity and the grounding and the foundation to be better at this game and then enjoy it and love it and have fun. Or my internationals that I work with, that 2 weeks before they go on a major tour or go play in the Big Bash or come to the 100, we are doing specific things and it's their job. This is what they earn money with. This is what they have to perform. There's no what ifs, maybe, or buts. There's no, I'm hoping to do well. No, I have to do well, because if I don't, I lose that contract. And still making them realize that they can still enjoy it. They can enjoy the process of going to those types of games, of playing in front of full stadiums. And I'm learning too. I'm learning how to be better at talking at different levels. And being a barista was me talking to clients, from a student that's getting a coffee in the morning before she goes to her first class, to the CEO that comes in because he likes the coffee I make and has his regular soy milk latte, and I know just how to make it, what temperature it's at, and he tells me about his day, and I suddenly pick up a little bit of a snippet of what business world is like, to becoming a project manager at a development firm that works in platinum mining in the Northwest. And I did that for a year, and I have to go into community where I don't know the language. I have to work with a royal family that thinks that they're much better than they are. People that see money as being the ultimate gain, and they do everything they can to get it. And I've got to be the doorman at the front of the bank says, no, I can't just give you money. Dealing with politicians to get projects approved and get roads built and portable mobile clinics that are the combis that are converted into mobile clinics built, and building sports fields and doing HIV/AIDS stuff. That's not cricket related, but it's helping me to understand communication. It's helping me to understand how to get projects done. It helped me to realize that there's a myriad of variety of people that need help, and I'm lucky and fortunate that I've got the ability to do that through cricket. That the young 14-year-old that's starting at high school wants to get his first team cap in 3 or 4 years' time, that I'm having a direct influence in helping him achieve that dream of his. And when he does it, the satisfaction of getting that thank you text or the thank you WhatsApp message and being like, I really appreciate you. And then, like I said earlier, being invited to a birthday party just purely because the family sees you as being part of the family, or being told that you're gonna you need a place to stay. Your apartment
coming with me.
You're coming to live at our house, and your parents just being like, okay. That I feel is the thing that I've learned through this process is that it's all about people, and the world needs kinder people. They need people that are more considerate. They need people that think about others, take their own ego out of it. And I'm not grandstanding here, but I'm hoping that I'm one of those types of people, that I make a positive difference in somebody else's life. And sometimes that positive difference is a negative outcome, because you have to be harsh in the words that you say. You have to criticize constructively, but you have to criticize, and you have to hold people accountable for their actions. And you sometimes have to have very difficult conversations, because that's what honesty is. But knowing and hoping that they know that I'm doing it for their best interests and not for mine. And that is a hard, difficult line to walk. And as I've gotten older, I hope that I've started navigating it a little bit better. But there's still times when it comes up and I walk away from situations still feeling like maybe I've said the wrong thing. And I can only understand the fallout or the negative impact or the positive impact of that a couple of months, a couple of years down the line. And then that's again why I speak about projects, because you make a decision now that's going to have an impact in 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 months, 10 years from now. And are you making that right decision? And that's the hard part. That's the difficult part to understand, be okay with, and still move on.
And I think that's amazing. The fact that we're saying, like, yes, we all want to be nice people, but being nice doesn't mean always being cuddly and smiley, but it's also saying, like I say, hold people accountable. Yeah. And we shared a story over the last few days about a boy on a tour and how his actions, you had to take a different approach to what you normally would with that person, and how a few years later they came back and sort of said, I only realized now what you were doing for me then how much of an impact that has. And those projects, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, in the moment, in the instant, doesn't necessarily seem like it's a great decision.
Yeah.
But over a long period of time, it's probably one of the best things you can do. But you can only look at that in time.
In hindsight, hindsight is 2020, exactly.
And I think that's amazing. We spoke about international player that you've worked with over the last while and how awesome she is, and someone that I really enjoy listening about now from you and seeing a different perspective. But how have you helped someone like I don't want to drop her name, but
yeah, sure,
in adversity for her, and how much work she's put in to make sure she's successful. Also, you tell me how you've got a good relationship with her, that you can help her when there's adverse situations for
her. So I was involved with the Titans, part of their professional coaching staff, and I was doing an individual session in the indoor nets, and she popped her head in one day and came up to me and said, "Hi, my name is Minx." And I was like, "Yes, I know you," as everyone does in South Africa. And she's like, "I've been referred to you. Would you be able to help me with a couple of sessions? I just need some help, someone throwing balls to me." So I was like, "Of course." The ability to work with a legend like that, even at that stage, she was inspirational, and just the type of personality she was. I just felt drawn to her in a very positive way, and I felt like I could really help. And we ended up having this 5.5-year relationship that not a lot of people know about because it didn't need to be publicized. And we spent a lot of time together working on the technique, actually changing a few significant things in the technique. And through that process, built a relationship of trust, because you have to trust somebody to change stuff that you felt like, well, I've had a 10-year career as an international player, and here's this guy telling me you need to slightly change that or alter this, or think about your thought process very differently. And the courage that she had to take that on, because then you have to go and do it in the match and see if it works, because it's easy coming to a net training session and saying, let's try this, or let's try this new shot. But you're always going to revert back to what you know. Humans are creatures of habit, so we always do subconsciously what we're comfortable with. And comfort is a very difficult thing. People talk about the comfort zone being a dangerous place to live in, but not if your comfort zone is an elite level. If comfort zone is excellence, then comfort zone is exactly where you want to be. If your comfort zone is mediocrity and false illusions about how good or how bad you are, and grandstanding and people telling you you're amazing, but you're actually not, because you're not spending the time doing the fitness, eating right, training as hard as you possibly can, understanding your own game, dealing with your negative thoughts and emotions that inevitably come through in situations, you never get better. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to a different comfort zone, the comfort zone where everything is taken care of, but you're never complacent. And I think that that's a brilliant place to live. And what Mink started figuring out for herself is that she could be comfortable. She didn't need to be apprehensive or anxious or nervous or hesitant. She could go out and go and express herself. And the fact that I played a small part in that process for her to awaken her inner demon, or inner beast is what I call it. Sorry, demon's not the right word. I apologize. Inner beast. And her then being able to go out and perform at such a high level, consistently over the last 2 or 3 years, has been insanely satisfying. Like, no one, now the people are going to know about it. No one needed to know about the relationship that we had and the coaching that we did and the amount of time we spent together. And when she was on tour, the amount of chats that we had and video calls that we did and stuff. Her husband knows, which is a good thing. But yeah, that for me was a relationship completely built on trust. That she trusted that what I was telling her was for the best of her career, that she had the courage to take it on and try it. And then when it started happening, being more and more and more comfortable with it, where it started becoming more natural and more instinctive. And I think that that's what I'm striving for with every single person I work with is I'm trying to do the best I can for you. If it doesn't work, we try something else. If that doesn't work, we try something else. But being willing to try, having the courage to experiment and explore yourself, because the brain is an amazing thing. It has so many different facets and components to it. And the way you talk to yourself, that inner voice, is the key to how you're going to unlock your potential. And too many people let that inner voice, I always call it the voice in the back of your head, tell them that they're not good enough, tell them the negative stuff, tell them, oh, you're going to stuff it up, you're going to mess up, you're going to be bad, or this is not, you're not good enough, you know. And not enough people are saying to themselves, shut up, get out of your own way, and just go out and perform. And whatever happens, happens. If I do badly, I can learn from it. If I do well, it's just a reward for the work I've put in. But whatever happens, there's an emotional calmness, I call it, not too excited, not too anxious and frustrated. You're just living in this comfort zone of acceptance and peace, and everything just flows, you know. I don't know if I've explained it well.
No, look, I understand your language.
Yes.
But my key thing is, we spoke about adversity and overcoming adversity. I don't necessarily think you focus on the word adversity, but what does it actually mean? Me is like, okay, adversity, I'm putting myself in a comfortable situation, which can identify as adverse.
Yeah.
But that's going to lead me to a process of, okay, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to try these things. Oh, on Saturday, on a cricket match, I hit for 12, try and bowl these balls. Okay, cool. On the surface, I've learned from that. But then also, putting the work in. I went to myself here yesterday, trying new things. Both of us got put in the head a couple of times, but we learned so much from that session. Same with Caitlin, like all three of us, different things to work on, different processes. And if you saw us yesterday, probably these guys aren't playing Premier League cricket in their respective areas. But we've all got to play cool. That was really adverse. That was really tough. But now we're in a place where we know what we're doing again. I think the same thing with Minx. Hearing her stories and stuff she shared with me, how amazing she is, and how incredible the work that the small prodigies that you play, how important that is, and how incredible it can be. Against the question in the World Cup, was against India.
Against India,
and winning runs.
Yeah.
I remember watching the game live, and I'm thinking back to that now. And I was showing a story yesterday. So you had a game watch, get on TV and seeing that.
Yeah.
How that, almost restarting someone new, led into career, put yourself in an adverse situation. Still leads to this.
What does adversity mean? It's both positive and negative adversity. What I mean by that is the negative stuff that everyone knows, that things go badly. You have an injury, you lose your contract, you break up with your girlfriend. You know, those are all negative things that happen to you. And a big saying that's come into the world, I think everyone talks about it now, it is what it is. You know, life just happens and you just got to deal with it. Those are all catchwords and phrases that everyone uses, but it's based on a philosophy, a particular philosophy of Stoicism. You know, Stoicism is the idea that what happens to you is not important, but how you deal with it is important. And if you can deal with it in the right way, the lessons that you take away from that make you a better person. So how I think about adversity and what it means to me is that when difficult stuff happens, have you got the ability to turn it into positive? Adversity is just, life just happens. You can't control it. You can't control 3 ducks in a row. When one, the umpire gives you out when you haven't nicked the ball, when you get run out by your partner because he makes a bad call, and the third one, the pitch is very difficult and the ball misbehaves. Those are 3 instances where you were not in control of the result, the bad result that happened to you, but you still have to deal with it. So do you go into your crying shame, woe is me, everything's wrong with the world and everyone's to blame but me philosophy and mindset? And that puts you back so far mentally, because now the voice in the back of your head, like I spoke about or alluded to, says, yeah, you're not doing anything wrong. It's all everyone else's fault. So there's nothing wrong. Or being able to say, you know what? Yes, I've had these bad situations, but I'm still training well. I still feel good about my game. It's going to turn around. I just have to be patient with that. I have to see the longer term view. I can't just worry about what happens now, because if now makes me happy or sad, good or bad, from week to week I'm fluctuating between good and bad, happy or sad. And I can't live like that, you know? I've got to look at it like, what is my results been over the last 2 years as a past thing? Just think about, okay, there's adversity right now, 3 ducks in a row as a batsman. What's happened over the last 6 months, 6 innings, 12 months, 24 months, that's led to me now being in the situation 3 weeks in a row where I haven't gotten past a single run. And there's a pattern there somewhere. And all you have to do is be aware of it, understand it, find it, and change it. And then suddenly you're changing your fortunes going forward into the future, because the future is unknowable. You don't know what's going to happen next week. Next week you might have the worst practice week of your life. Something might happen. You get bashed in. You have a car accident. Now you have to worry about insurance. And you get there next Saturday and you score 100. How did that happen from the 3 ducks the week before? Because on the day anything can happen. So adversity is how I feel about something. Do I take it as a challenge and a negative, or do I see it as a challenge and a positive? And then positive adversity is that when things are going really well and you're on top of the world, and it's self-inflicted because you think that you've arrived, you think that you've achieved, and now you can just coast. And it comes back to that word of comfort zone. Now that I'm achieving, I've had a couple of performances, I know my place in the team is secure, so now I can chill. Are you going to let that happen? Or are you going to be like, I'm playing well. How long can I go? How much further can I take this? How many more heights can I reach? And if you look at the best players in the world, in any sport, in any pursuit, from the Federers to the Tiger Woodses to A.B. de Villiers to Virat Kohli to Serena Williams, to the best Michael Phelps, for example, 8 gold medals at one Olympics. They never rested on their laurels. They never were like, okay, I've won my first major, tennis or golf, and I'm good now. Now my name's in the history books. It's like, no, there's more. I can do more. I've won 8 Olympic gold medals. Do I stop? No. There's another Olympics that I can work for 4 years from now, because that's not enough. Delayed gratification, the trophy, the medal, it's just the reward for the work. But the works is what's going to satisfy you, because then your adversity becomes how you deal with success. Not a lot of people can deal with success because success is so elusive and so few people achieve it. Most people deal with failure and know how to deal with failure. And that's why we have a lot of psychologists and therapists and psychiatrists, because depression and anxiety and failure and coping with failure are massive things in the world. But coping with success is like you're successful, so you should be happy. You don't need to cope with it, but you actually do. And that's why the richest people get richer, the best players get better, the biggest achievers achieve more, because they learn how to cope with success and use it as fuel for the next success and the next success and the next success. So adversity is how you see it and not necessarily what happens to you, because things just happen, good and bad. And you decide if it's going to be adverse, or I suppose in the opposite sense, proverse. Is it going to be a proversity that you're going to be able to use as a positive fuel, and that's going to take you forward into your next magical experience? Make sense?
It makes sense. I think it's a change of perspective for me as well, because I keep looking at before this chat, like adversity, it's always I'm dealing with setback. I've never had to think about now, I'm dealing with success, and even small successes for me. The last 5 years moving to the UK, I've actually dealt with that successful transition and thinking about like personal relationships as well. I've had to go through a lot of turmoil, but also the good relationships I had, how did I deal with them? And that for me is actually now changing my thought as we speak, think about relationships we've had in the past.
As you know, I've had massive setbacks from a coaching perspective, not just playing. It's one of the reasons why I stopped playing, because I felt like I was never supported. I felt like I didn't get the opportunities that I deserved. And maybe it's been a theme of my life that constantly I feel like I've done the right things, I've achieved success, but then it leads to disappointment afterwards. And understanding that is so important, because you can't let that get you down, unfortunately, because you're still living your life. The disappointment of not getting that job, or getting that zero, or that failure in a match situation, or breaking up with your girlfriend, it's already in the past, because you live your life 1 second forward in time every single second. So are you going to be dwelling back there where it's getting further and further away as we and you are speaking in this podcast? That disappointment is further and further away in the past, and the future is coming closer and closer moving forward. Or you're going to use that as fuel to drive you forward. There's a beautiful analogy that people use, is that what do you carry with you towards the rest of your life? People always talk about baggage. That person's got baggage, but But is that baggage a heavy suitcase that you drag around, and it's got all your resentment and envy and hate and anger and frustration and sadness? Or is it a little backpack that's like, it's got the lessons that you've learned that you're taking forward to make your life a little bit better? Because I think moving forward with a backpack is much better than moving forward with a suitcase. So when you think about baggage, it's like, let it be light, because you just have to leave it in the past. And it's not easy, because it's like, again, like I say, people don't get to talk about this stuff enough. It's one of our biggest challenges, I think, from a coaching perspective. And you've alluded to the fact that you've gone into coaching as well, Billy, and you're doing this, which is amazing. But we don't spend enough time talking about adversity, the negative impacts about how things work, how I talk to myself, what I say to myself, what other people's words mean to me, what a good or a bad decision or impact or consequence means to me. We're just supposed to just move on. And that's all good and well, but it's always going to be there, because that little voice is going to keep telling you, listen, dude, you're not as good as you think you are. Or you're going to say, what, shut up, get out the way, let me do my thing. And realizing that makes life so much more enjoyable. Because the bad thing that happens to you, it's like water off a duck's back. You shrug it off and like, oh, okay. If you have something negative to say about me, okay, then it's your loss, because now you're losing an opportunity to be with somebody. And if you can look yourself in the mirror and be happy with yourself, to deal with somebody who actually likes themselves, who's happy about themselves. And those are the people you surround yourself with. You don't surround yourself with people that are negative, because that's just going to drag you down. It's going to make you depressed, and it's going to make you sad. And people that complain all the time, they will complain. It's just a human nature thing. But people that complain all the time are like drags on life. Like, why would I want that? I want to be with a person that wakes up in the morning and says, come, let's go for a run. Or let's go have that ice cream. Or, what, life is beautiful. It's amazing. It's a little bit of rain now, but that's awesome, because, at least we're cooling down.
We're chatting in the rain.
That's exactly what it is, in Ireland, which is supposed to happen. And that, I think, is a perspective on life that few people have. And I think we need a little bit more of that in South African cricket too.
Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing it.
Sure.
And again, I was 14 years, and I'm extremely grateful. And as alluded to in the last podcast with Robbie, how cool it is that my past has caught up with me again. And it's proverse. Everything's becoming proverse for me. And I'm extremely grateful to have you back in my life, because obviously in a few years we weren't in contact too much. Sure. But how amazing it is that we can still be here in Northern Ireland for 14 years after meeting
these sportsmen,
and we can still have these amazing conversations. And I was say to people, there are 4 people in my life that have massive impact on me, and I suppose my grandfather, who's a healthy person, and my parents, and it's always Peter Harold.
Thank you, my boy.
So a lot of people would say the same thing, and so thank you. It's a massive credit to you, and I look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Dylan. Keep doing this. I promise you, the more we talk about these things, the more you sort of highlight the positive impact that sport can have on mental health and things like that, the more people will understand and realize that it's actually a vehicle for good, and more people want to take up sport, whether it's tennis, cricket, golf. Please play golf. Whatever sport it is, lawn bowls, the mental health benefits of that are massive. But talk about the stuff that bothers you, because I think that is the key to understanding it, unlocking it, being at peace with yourself. And please don't stop doing this. I think you're onto something massive. I'm looking forward to the rest of the shows. The people that you got on so far have been amazing, and the people that are going to come on in the future are going to be even better. So looking forward to the growth of this, and thank you for having me, dude. It's always nice talking to you, but it's even better talking to you in front of a camera. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Peter.